Hello, welcome back to Reading Success Academy. I'm Paula Smith, and this is our word attack practice. We're going to take a really long word and we're going to break it down into smaller pieces to make it easier to read and easier to spell. Now, the very first step in our word attack process is to look for special endings like shun and chur and shus and jur. There's 8 of them, and if you're not familiar with those, you can send me a message and I will send you a list with some example words of each of those special endings. They're a great shortcut. But we do not have a special ending on today's word of the day, so we're going to start with step 2, which is to look for groups of letters that work together to make one sound. So let's take a look at our word and I'll show you how to break it down. All right, so today's word, it does have an ending that looks familiar. So you might be looking here at this ing thinking, well, that's an ending. It's ing, right? But it's not really a special ending because you can sound out all those letters in order to make ing. The I makes it like an I or an E sound depending on how you pronounce it. And then you have ng, ing. So really, since it can be sounded out, I don't put it in my special endings list. If you like to put in your special endings list, that's just fine. But if you notice that right away, you probably don't need it on your list because you already know it, right? So let's go to our next step, which is to look for pairs or even 3 or 4 letters that work together to make one sound. Now this one's a little tricky because you may not see it. There is a pair of letters in this word that make one sound. It's not a common one like 2 E's or 2 consonants together or an SH, TH or an EA. There's nothing like that in here. It's actually 2 different consonants that work together to make one sound in this one. Look closely and see if you can find 2 letters that make one sound that are both consonants. Did you find the SC right here? That is just the sound S when you get there. And if you're thinking, well, if there's a S and a C, why is it the same sound? Well, it has to do with this letter right here. Whenever you have the letter E, I or a Y right after the C, it changes the sound from K to S. And since we already have a S sound here, we're not going to say it twice. We don't have words where we say S in it, right? And if there are, please tell me about it because I sure don't know about them. Now, I suppose if you might pronounce it that way if you're making a plural, but we definitely don't say s without some sort of a vowel sound between them. All right, so since we have the E here, that changes this to s. So when we get to this part, we are just going to say s one time. Now, there aren't any other combinations of letters that work together. So our next step is to start at the beginning and start sounding out until you have a chunk. A chunk is part of a word that has one vowel sound in it. So we're going to start here and say k, n, and blend that together. Con. And then we're going to draw a line in here. I call this a chunk line. So we know our first chunk is con, or it could be cone. There's a lot of different sounds that the letter O can be, but we're going to try ah first. And if it doesn't work out, we can always change it later. Always be ready to change vowels because they have so many different sounds. All right, so we have con here. Now we're going to start over again. We're sounding out again, but on this side of the line, we're not just going to keep adding on to this chunk. If you try to put too many sounds together at once, you can end up mixing up some of the sounds or dropping some out. So we just want to do one chunk at a time. So let's say d, a, da, or you could say d, E. Either one of those sounds work for the letter E. I'm going to go with a, so that makes da. Now we're going to put these first 2 chunks together. Con da, con da. And now we're going to start over again on this side of the line. S and send. There we go. Now, you may have been wondering, well, how come you didn't just stop it right here after the n? Well, we could have. We could have just done sen, and then we could have put the duh in the last chunk. But since they kind of blend together, it's a continuous sound right here. This it can blend into another easily. I went ahead and put them together, but you can break it up that way. So this chunk is send or sen if you stopped it here. Now we'll put those three chunks together. Condescend, condescend, and then ing, condescending, condescending once you blend it all together. So there we have it, a really long word, but if you look closely at those chunks, you probably realize that they're really not hard chunks to spell, except for this one that has that SC there, right? All right, let's take a look at what condescending means. We will move over to that definition. Condescending is an adjective, and it means to have or show a feeling of patronizing superiority, like you feel like you're better than other people and you make other people feel kind of lowly. So you could use it in a sentence like this. His condescending attitude toward his coworkers alienated them and hurt team morale. So it's never a good thing to be condescending to someone. It doesn't make them feel very good. And let's go ahead and mark this word up a little bit. When you're studying the spelling of this word, you want to put some eye stoppers there between those chunks to make it easier to focus on one chunk at a time. So we'll draw those in there, and then I'm going to take a different color to mark my groups of letters that make one sound. We just had one grouping this time, just that S sound right there. And if you need to, you could go ahead and put that slash S in there. The slash marks just mean sounds like, so that way you know what sound to make there if you forget. And that's pretty much it. Now you can have the S sound in this chunk if you want. You could have condescending. Either one is fine. All right, my friend, that does it for today's word attack practice. If you have questions about the method that I use, or if you would like to have a special endings list with some example words, make sure you send me a message to hello@readingsuccessacademy.com, and I will be happy to get those to you. Always happy to help. I'll see you tomorrow in our next word attack session, and then that will be the last one for the week. We're going to take a little holiday break from our word attack lives, and we'll be back in January. So tomorrow, the last word attack practice until January. See you tomorrow. Bye.